Welcome to the Robotics Through Science Fiction podcast. I'm Dr. Robin Murphy. Halloween's approaching and it's time to ponder what's scarier than a weaponized robot dog. Well, here's a discussion of 6 scary things about sci-fi and real-world robots, plus recommendations for 4 of my favorite scary science fiction robot books that have enough science fact in them to be thought-provoking. Trigger warning. Some of the frightening things involve sexual violence. So what makes robots overtly scary? Besides the standard sci-fi tropes that robots are going to have an uprising and kill us all in their sleep. Well, there are at least 4 ways that robots come across as scary. First one is that their intentional function is to harm us. Robots may, in fact, be designed to kill us. There's the morphology issue. Do they look like a scary insect, or do they look like something that Sid and Toy Story might have created? That's scary. Another one is, does it fall into the uncanny valley? Is there something just off about it? And the fourth is whether the behavior is subconsciously untrustworthy. It doesn't quite act predictably or follow the expectations we have for living things. But there are 2 more subtle reasons to be scared of robots. There's the unintentional functionality from when the robots are buggy, or they have unforeseen negative consequences. And the other is when they enable unethical acts, such as disturbing child-sized sex bots that emulate emotions, including pain and fear. Well, let's start with creepy dog robots with guns. Weaponized robots are part of that whole AI robotics set of applications that we call lethal autonomous weapons systems. It's often abbreviated as laws for short because apparently we should be making laws about them. Anyway, they're scary because of their intentional function. They exist to kill us, enough said. My favorite sci-fi book in the laws genre is Kill Decision by Daniel Suarez. It's about swarms of robots that suddenly appear, attack people or military bases. And it actually captures behavioral programming and the fact that you can have these swarms, they'd be very cheap and pretty much impossible to track down to a particular government or terrorist group. As Ted McAulty, a machine learning expert by day and author of books such as The Robots of Gotham by Night, once said about the question of robots coming for us, he said there's only really one question that matters. When the robots come, will they look like Wall-E or Agent Smith? Well, Kill Decision goes with none of the above. The robots look like the quadcopters that you buy on Amazon, but they're programmed to have the simple but relentless insect intelligence of a swarm of angry ants. It's not just the intentional function of a robot that can make it scary. Certainly, morphology, the shape and appearance of the robot plays a part. Just making it look like an animal is not necessarily enough. Some biomimetic robot shapes are creepy, like robot spiders. Minority Report, creepy. And to compound this, robots are almost always made of black carbon graphite fibers. So the black is nice because it hides a multitude of manufacturing blemishes. But black armor is associated with menacing and aggressive behavior. It's screaming that it's there to kill us. But even humanoid or, cuddly animal shapes that are normally not frightening can be creepy if they enter what we call the uncanny valley. The uncanny valley was originally proposed in 1979 by Masahiro Mori to describe a plot of how a human's comfort level changed as a function of the robot's physical resemblance to a human or animal. And so the plot has a dip called a valley in the middle where the robots are appearing lifelike, more lifelike, but then they don't have sufficiently lifelike movements or mannerism, and so that disconnect triggers a negative emotional reaction. It makes us creeped out. One way to enter the uncanny valley is to have some aspect of the appearance to be disproportionately distorted or emphasized. And Diego-san, a child-sized robot which has a very large head compared to its body, is the poster child among roboticists. Another way of entering the uncanny valley is for a robot to have movements that are slightly out of sync, or they don't match expectations, or the voice gesturing doesn't match. There's a latency in it. And so a humanoid robot that's unnaturally still, it doesn't blink its eyes, or seems out of sequence with what it's saying, like the Geminoid series, is creepy. The way a robot moves and acts also influences our trust in the robots. I mean, jerky motions tell us that we should be on alert because the robot's clumsy, it may be poorly programmed, or it may not be able to sense the environment correctly. And in the environment, that would be us too. We expect robots that move to behave the way that humans and animals do around each other. And that's kind of that idea of personal space, the idea of proxemics. So if a robot enters our personal space but does not slow down, doesn't turn its volume down, and project that it's non-threatening, then our heart rate goes up and we get a fright. This is like if a dog runs right at you, full speed barking, getting close enough to bite, and even if it stops and, lulls its tongue and thrusts its head under your hand to get petted, it's scary. Whereas a dog that approaches slowly with its head slightly down is a little less threatening and reassures us or other animals that the dog's not in attack mode. Now, it's hard to talk about scary robots without bringing up the science fiction trope of a robot revolution. Daniel H. Wilson's Robopocalypse is probably the best techno-thriller combination of fiction and fact and fun in this category. In real life, there's no scientific studies that indicate that we are just inches away from the robots getting sentience and taking over. And in fact, top roboticist Rod Brooks typically offers amusingly scathing summaries of why a robot revolution just isn't in the cards, and picking on whatever pundit is the pundit of the week about robot revolutions. Another science fiction trope is downloading your brain into a robot, which, never ends well. We started seeing that back with Forbidden Planet in the 1950s, and it hasn't gotten any better for the protagonist. My favorite, so bad they're good movies in this genre are Saturn III and Eve of Destruction. The updated book, Demon Seed, is deliciously terrifying, but the original movie's awful. But again, this is another trope where there just isn't the science to support it. So, science and science fiction have lots of reasons for us to be scared of robots. Having an intention to harm, hair-raising morphologies, the uncanny valley, untrustworthy behavior. But let's not forget that buggy or poorly designed robots that exhibit unintentional functionality can be very scary as well. And recent advances in computer vision and machine learning have produced advances not only in machine learning, but in having robots learn the wrong thing. Great paper, The Surprising Creativity of Digital Evolution, has a list of unexpected things that real systems have learned when given incomplete goals and bounds. And in science fiction, we could see this coming, starting with a 1960s sci-fi short story, Callahan and the Wheelies, where the little robots learn that their creator is bad because he keeps turning them off at night. He's turning them off to recharge them, but they don't know that. And so they learn to start attacking him. Indeed, the #1 most frightening book that I have ever read is Little Eyes by Samantha Schweblin. It's terrifying because it's totally feasible of how a company could make a teleoperated robot game and get away with ignoring the unintentional consequences of ruining people's lives. So imagine a company creating a Furby-like robot doll on a mobile base. And when a person called a keeper buys the robot toy, the toy is paired randomly with someone over the internet called a dweller, who is anonymous and who's purchased an encrypted tablet controller. The game is on. The dweller amuses themselves by scooting around and looking around and trying to figure out what country they're in and what the dweller does for, a living. And the game for the keeper is to interact with this thing that has a mind of its own and figure out why it's doing what it's doing. So what could go wrong? Lots. Lots. My gut-wrenching favorite is where a pedophile buys a robot that's already been paired to a boy, and his robot follows him around everywhere like a loyal doll. Follows him around everywhere, right? Shouldn't be a problem, right? Follows him everywhere. Follows him everywhere when he undresses and showers, and yeah, you get the picture. And that's just one horrible consequence. Little Eyes is also a great example of how laws and regulations lag technology. Something gets invented, and only after it starts causing problems does anyone go, whoops. Now, the European Union and a lot of robot ethicists are discussing robot regulations, but they're generally assuming and targeting robots with near peer intelligence, kind of similar to the assumptions in the recent book Machinehood. But that misses the point that a robot doesn't have to be as smart as a human to have profoundly unintentionally negative consequences. So let's try it this way. In real life, what's more frightening? That a drone will wreak havoc on someone else in another country, or that your job will be displaced? Well, I'm going with the direct impact on me and my family. Now, in theory, we'd all be displaced to a better job, which seemed to be true in the 1980s and 1990s, but nowadays maybe not. The Warehouse by Rob Hart takes a not-so-fictional look at warehouse robots and is another one of those way too close to home disturbing books. The warehouse and the delivery robots are accurately portrayed as being fairly dumb. Unfortunately, it also accurately portrays how dumb automation leads to humans having to work a 996 corporate lifestyle, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, to overcome bad ergonomics and bad human-robot interaction schemes and just have to struggle to keep up with the dumb robots. The ambiguous economic consequences of robots may be frightening, but another scary application is how they might encourage abusive behaviors. Certainly we saw HBO's Westworld and Ex Machina, portraying a future of abusive sex and destruction inflicted on highly attractive, sentient robots. But in the here and now, sex dolls are already one of the largest commercial investment sectors in autonomous robots. The sex bot for the protagonist's aging widowed father and made for love is amusing with that whole, my dad has a sex doll, yay, sort of shtick. But real-life child-sized sex bots that are being made and sold throughout the world are deeply disturbing. Do child-sized sex bots provide a safety valve to pedophiles? Or do they provide practice? No one knows. And as the world's expert on this, the Foundation for Responsible Robotics notes in their great report, Our Sexual Future with Robots, this is really hard to study accurately. In the meantime, Madeline Ashby's VN, a book definitely not suitable for all ages, it covers abuse of robot sex from a robot's point of view. So, it's much more fun to imagine creepy alien robots coming to take over the Earth. And if you like that sort of thing, check out Robot Overlords, a terrible family movie with Sir Ben Kingsley and Gillian Anderson, both of whom should have known better. You should check it out and prepare to throw popcorn at the TV. But it's the actual robots that we're building and pushing out into society right now that are really scary. Please check out the Robotics Through Science Fiction blog for links to the different books, movies, and science on the topics I've talked about. And plus, if you buy media through the site, I get a tiny percentage to keep the site going. So thank you in advance.